Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. Today I have 4 easy and super delicious side dish recipes that would be perfect for your Easter celebration. If you're looking for a great side dish for Easter or really any dinner or occasion, then just keep watching. First, I'm making au gratin potatoes. I have made this recipe several times and it turns out perfect every time and they are super delicious. This recipe is from Crouton Cracker Jacks. I will include a link to his channel as well as a link to his recipe video for this down in the description box below. Let me show you what you'll need. The ingredients are pretty simple. You'll need some butter, cheddar cheese, salt and pepper, some onion, milk. You'll need some flour, and then of course you'll need some potatoes. A quick note, I am having his recipe because it's just my husband and I for dinner tonight, but even having the recipe, we still had leftovers. So to get started, I have peeled and washed my potatoes, and then I'm just going to cut them into thin slices. You can do this with a knife. I like to use my mandolin, but speaking from experience, make sure you use the guard when you use these mandolins. They are super, super sharp. So once I have sliced all of my potatoes, I'm going to set those aside. I have some water that is coming to a boil, and so once my potatoes are sliced, I'm going to add my potatoes to my boiling water and bring it back up to a boil, and once it's at a boil, I'm going to cook these for 3 minutes and then drain them and rinse them with cold water. Now, you don't really have to boil your potatoes first. I mean, you can just put your potatoes into the oven. You would need to cook it for much longer, but I really like cooking the potatoes just this few minutes ahead of time. It's an extra step, yes, but it makes sure that your potatoes are cooked and it makes sure that you don't have to cook the au gratin potatoes forever in the oven. Now I'm going to make my cheese sauce. So in this same pot, I'm adding my butter and my diced onion, and I'm just going to cook that for a few moments until the onion softens. Next, I'm going to add in my flour, whisk that in, and allow that to cook for about 30 seconds to a minute. Now I'm going to whisk in my milk. I'm going to season this with some salt and pepper. Once that has thickened, I am going to add in my shredded cheddar cheese and then continue to whisk that until the cheese is melted. And here is the finished cheese sauce. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I have greased my casserole dish, and I'm going to add a little bit of the cheese sauce into the casserole dish and then just kind of spread that out a little bit. Then I'm going to add a layer of potatoes. Then a layer of cheese sauce, and I'm just going to continue alternating layers of potatoes and the cheese sauce until I have used up all of my cheese sauce and potatoes. And for this last step, it's not necessary. The recipe does not call for it. I like to sprinkle just a little bit of parsley flakes on top. I like how it looks, but again, you totally don't have to do that. But once I've sprinkled those on top, I'm going to place this into the oven and cook this for about 35 to 40 minutes. And here are the au gratin potatoes out of the oven. Now, you'll definitely want to let these rest for about 15 to 20 minutes before you serve them. And here it is. I know it's not a pretty picture, but these are so, so delicious. And one of the things that I like about this recipe is I've made this, like I said before, several times. And a couple of the times that I've made it, I've actually put everything together ahead of time and then just baked it, once we're ready to eat. Next up, I'm making corn pudding. My dad came across this recipe a couple years ago and he started making it and bringing it to our family get-togethers, and we all have fallen in love. This is delicious. I know that there are lots of different like corn pudding and corn casserole recipes out there, but this is really good, so I recommend you give this a try. Let me show you what you'll need. Once again, I'm having the recipe, but the full recipe will be in the description box below. You'll need some corn, cream-style corn, butter, some sugar, milk. Then you'll need some dry mustard powder, some minced onion flakes, some seasoned salt, cornstarch, and eggs. I've got my oven preheated to 400 degrees. In this mixing bowl, I'm going to add in my eggs and whisk those together. Next, I'm just going to add in the remaining ingredients. It really doesn't matter what order you add them. Just put everything in the bowl and mix it together really well. And a quick note here, this is another recipe that I have made several times, and a couple of the times that I've made it, I have actually made this earlier in the day, so I've kind of put everything together, put it in my casserole dish, and then just waited until closer to when we're actually going to eat before I bake it, and it has turned out delicious every time. Now that I've got everything added and mixed together really well, I'm going to spray my casserole dish really well with some cooking spray. I'm going to add my mixture, and then this goes into the preheated oven for about an hour. I do set my timer at the 30-minute mark and give it a good stir and then cook it for the remaining 30 minutes. And here is the corn pudding out of the oven. I like to let this set for about 10 or 15 minutes before serving it, but it's really delicious also just at room temperature. And here is the finished corn pudding. Again, I highly recommend you give this a try. It's really good. Next up, I'm making potato salad. I have made this so many times over my lifetime, I don't even know how to count. But I never measure. I always just eyeball everything, but I did my best to measure for this video. We love this. It's a family favorite. We have it for Thanksgiving. We have it for Easter. We have it for cookouts. My mom requests it like for her birthday and at different occasions. So I know that everyone has pretty much their own potato salad recipe that they love, that either they came up with or their mom or grandma, but this is just how I make it. But absolutely customize this to whatever you and your family like. Here's what I like to use for my potato salad. I use onion, relish, yellow mustard, mayonnaise, some salt and pepper, and then I like to sprinkle a little paprika over the top, some hard-boiled egg, and then of course the potatoes. To get started, I've peeled and washed my potatoes. I cut them into about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch cubes, and then I've placed them into cold water. I bring that up to a boil, and then I boil that until the potatoes are done. It normally takes about 10 minutes depending on how big I cut them, but you'll just want to make sure that you check them. Once they're cooked all the way through, I'm going to drain them and rinse them with cold water. I like to mix up everything except the potatoes in a bowl before I add them. That's just a personal preference. So in this large mixing bowl, I'm going to add in my mayonnaise, and I used about 3.5 pounds of potatoes, and I added about 1 cup of mayonnaise. Then I'm going to add in my mustard. I added about 1.5 tablespoons. Then I'm going to add in my relish, and I added about 2 tablespoons. Then I'm going to season this with some salt and pepper. You'll just do this to taste. And again, like I said earlier, you can absolutely customize this with whatever your family likes. Next, I'm going to add in my onion. I like to cut my onion very finely. And I'm going to add in my chopped hard-boiled eggs and then mix that together really well. You'll want to make sure to give this a taste and see, if you want to add a little bit more mustard or a little bit more relish or whatever you'd like. Once that's mixed together and it's where I want it, I'm going to add in my potatoes and mix that together. And then I'm going to sprinkle that with some paprika, and that's it. That's the potato salad. For the quantity of potatoes that I use, this easily feeds about 6 people, but you can absolutely double this recipe. The last recipe I'm going to share with you today are my deviled eggs. This is another thing that I have made pretty much my entire life. I make my deviled eggs and potato salad the way that my granny did and that my mom does. And this is another family favorite. We have these for Thanksgiving, for Easter, for cookouts, different occasions. We love these. But just like with the potato salad, you can absolutely customize this to whatever you and your family like. So let me share with you the things that I use for my deviled eggs. I used hard-boiled eggs, yellow mustard, salt and pepper, mayonnaise, relish, and paprika. Now, I like to use sweet relish for my deviled eggs and potato salad, but if you prefer dill relish, you can absolutely use that. If you don't have relish, you can just use pickles and chop those up. To get started, I've taken my hard-boiled eggs and I have sliced them in half. I'm just going to add the yolks to this bowl and then place the white back onto my dish. To make my hard-boiled eggs, I know everyone kind of has their own preferred way. I add my eggs to cold water, bring it up to a boil. Once it's at a rolling boil, I boil them for 10 minutes exactly. I remove them from the hot water and place them into cold water and then peel them, and they turn out perfect every time. I'm going to take a fork and mash up my yolks. You could also do this in a food processor, but I just use a fork. I used 6 eggs for this recipe, and to that I added about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, about 1 tablespoon of mustard, 2 tablespoons of relish, and again, do this to your taste. And then I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper and mix that together really well. Next, I'm going to fill my eggs. You can fill your eggs using a pastry bag. If you don't have a pastry bag, you could just use a Ziploc bag, add your filling, and then just snip off the end and do it that way. If I were taking these to a potluck or to like a family reunion or something like that, I do use a pastry bag, but this was for my mom's birthday, so I'm just going to fill these with a spoon and then sprinkle them with some paprika, and that's it. The deviled eggs are done. And here are the finished deviled eggs. These are so good. And that's it for today's video. I hope this gave you some good inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.